There's a couple of different ways to create a new document. Okay, you can click in this introduction welcome screen at Action 3.0, or you can go up here and go File, New. So I'm going to click Action 3.0, and there is our stage. Here is our pasteboard. Over here in the Property Inspector is the size and the frame rate, the color of the stage, and we're in pixels. If you want to make sure, if it says something other than pixels, you might want to click here and make sure and change it if somebody had it in inches or somebody had it in centimeters. There's just a different way to do it in this document than in other documents. I'm not going to change the width and height here. I'm going to click OK because you can change it right here. 500 width, 300 height. The stage is white, but like any color, a little color chip, you can click it and you can make the stage green or black, but we're going to go with white right now. So there you have it. Flash's programming tool or language is called ActionScript. It's very different from HTML, CSS, some of the stuff we saw in Dreamweaver. We didn't really see JavaScript. The Flash Player, on the other hand, is used a lot. Your project, you're going to save your project and you're going to export a SWF file, which is basically the movie. .swf is a SWF and a .fla would be the project. You can also modify the document under Modify Document. So there's a number of ways you can do that. See, we get the same dialog box here. I'm going to cancel it. Background color, pixels. Now you have the new settings. So if you wanted to change anything, you could do that. So there's a number of ways, like in most of Adobe's products, to do things like Photoshop and Illustrator. Now that we've created a new document with basically nothing in it, we're going to save the new document. So I want you to go to Save As, and make sure you put it in, there we are, Lesson 1. So we're going to title this is the title, except we're going to put an underscore, work, so that we know that this is the one that we're working on. So this is saved. So make sure that you took your FLA 01 folder and put it on your desktop or somewhere where you know you're going to be going back and forth easily to it. So now this is saved. Notice, instead of Untitled 1, it says FL0101 underscore work .fla. So that's the project name. Now we're going to close this. I'm pretty sure Command W would work, but I'm going to look to see if it's the same. Yeah, Command W, same as in Photoshop, Illustrator. There are some consistencies. So I'm going to close it, and we're back to where we don't have a document. So the next step will be, okay, so now we go back to opening that back up. FL0101, which is the document we just saved. We can do it from here, or we can go File, Open. I'll do it this way this time. And we want to open the one that we just saved with the underscore work. And now there's our stage with nothing on it. Back. We're going to leave it open because we are going to use it in the next exercise. So up to this point, we've got our stage. This is where anything that you export as a movie is going to show. The pasteboard is where you can store stuff. This is our book calls it like backstage, the gray area, the pasteboard. On pages 383, 384, 385, there's lots of good information about what the different tools look like, the icon looks like, the tool name, and the use. Then we have the Property Inspector. This kind of reminds me of the options bar in Photoshop. It changes depending on what you're doing. So you always, there will be different information for you to, and it does the same thing in Dreamweaver also. The property inspector changes depending on what you're doing. Notice how the property inspector, for example, if I click the rectangle, it says rectangle tool. If I click type tool, classic text, static text, brush tool. So it does change, and different things change along with it. Notice in the text tool, we have the font, color, kerning, paragraph, centered, right justified. It's always better to start out left justified and then move it. Here are a number of fonts to use that you can use. We'll get into fonts in a little bit. We'll take a look. I'm going to add some things that the book doesn't have. I really don't want it to be yellow. I prefer it to be black. So I'm going to make it black, and I'm going to go to the stroke tool, which looks like a pencil. I'm sorry, stroke. I don't want a stroke. So see this square, white square with a line? You're going to see this a lot. You're going to see this in Illustrator, definitely. You don't see it in Photoshop. So now I'm telling Flash, I don't want any outline on my type. I'm going to go to the type. There's the color. It defaults to times. And I'm going to draw a box. Now the last font size I used was 47, so that's what it's at. So I'm just going to type Flash CS6. So there wasn't enough room. I found to tell Flash to stop typing, I just click another tool, like the black move tool. And if I want this on one line, I just pull it that way. If I don't, I pull it this way. I'm kind of curious. I'm not sure about this because I know in Photoshop you can highlight the name of the font family and use yes, you can do it in here too. You can use the arrow keys on your keyboard and it will scroll through the different fonts loaded on your system. So that's kind of a cool thing, especially when you're not quite sure what font you want to use. And this type is clearly all caps. So we've got this, and now we want to change the color. We can just easily change the color up here of the font. Let's say we want to make the font much bigger. Ooh, that's too big. But now I want it all on one line, and there I've got it all on one line. So it works a little, there's some similarities and some differences. Letter spacing, it looks a little loose. This is the one area that sort of bothers me, and I'm going to check this out. See, I can take it like that. Oh, that's good. Yes. Okay. Terrific. You can do it. If you have the whole word selected, I would imagine it would change the letter spacing. Yep, in the whole word. So that's called tracking, really. And then kerning is when you do it between letters. And we had just done that, and take the L a little closer to the F, and we're good to go. I'm going to go up to the Move tool, and there's your Flash CS6. So that's how you handle type. Not my favorite blue. Let's see, let's get a green. And anti-aliasing for readability. So we're good to go with type. You'll notice a lot of times Flash will say you haven't saved this. And you want to enable auto recovery. So let's say everything crashes. You'll probably be able to get your document back. But I'm going to save it. Yes. I'm going to say yes. Okay, I'm just going to, but in case you want to title or animate your type for fun, after we get to the animation part, I wanted to show you how to do type. So I'm going to delete it with the delete key on the keyboard. If you're on a PC, it's the backspace key. It looks like there's a stroke here, but there really isn't. If you draw another rectangle here, you'll see it's just showing you what rectangle you're on. If you look over here, you don't see a stroke. You can add a stroke. Let's see, we'll add a blue stroke. And let's make it a 3. And now you can see the difference. So if you go to your move tool, this is becoming like in Photoshop, I like the move tool because it's kind of a neutral tool. So you can see what object you're on. So I'm on this one. I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to go back to this one and add a stroke of black and 1. So now it really looks the same as if it had no stroke, but it actually does have a stroke now. So if I went and drew that and went over here, you're just not going to know the difference. Now if I tell one of them, okay, no stroke, and then I go here, here, that one is the one with no stroke. So that was the one that was selected. So here we are back here. I'm going to select this one and delete it, and I'm going to select this one, add a stroke back in at 1, and I'm going to resize it here according to what your book wants. And your book wants, let's see, 250 by 150. So there we modified the object, which is fine. Okay, we're going to go back and add type again. I'm going to get the type tool. I don't want this color. I know I don't want this color, so I'm going to change it before I even type. I want black. Your book says it should be 45, and your book also wants Arial, and I'm pretty sure I have Arial on my machine. And I'm pretty sure the school, Arial is really like Helvetica. I'm going to use Arial Black because it's heavier, and I'm going to make my text box. There it is, and I'm going to type in here Flash CS6. So clearly it's too big. There we go. And then I'm going to go to the move tool and bring it back down here. These are like smart guides. See these things? It shows me I'm at the corner there. I want to be centered over this object. And if I highlight both objects, and I don't think we did this, I don't think we do this in this lesson at all, I'm going to hold down the command key, or actually I'm going to go up here, modify, where's my select all, edit, select all, there we go, select all. I'm going to bring up the align window, and this is align horizontal centers. That isn't quite right, so align vertical centers. We don't really want that either. Here, I have an idea. Let's close this. This is going to make a big difference. Let's select everything and go back. Where's our align window? Is it hiding? There it is. There we go. Align. This was align horizontal centers. I want both of these objects to come down here, and now I only want this object. So I'm going to go up here, and I want to make sure that my align Command K is horizontal centers. Yeah, it is. See, this is a little, if I center this type, I'm just going to have this selected and center it. There we go. Much better. Command K, horizontal centers. And now that is correct. The rectangle and the type are aligned, horizontal centers. I'm going to change the color of the type to what the book wants. And here's our color swatch. And it's asking for, where are the numbers? They put the numbers in here. 4 zeros and a 9. So that's a blue. So you see we've got a blue there. I'm going to save this because I don't know what's going to happen next. And there you have it. I'm going to close it. I want to talk a little bit about the timeline And also, just so you're aware, and this is in almost all the Adobe programs, they're in, like for example, swatches. Up in the upper right corner, these little hash marks and an arrow, and if I click it, now you see all these are grayed out because we don't have a picture up there. But there's a duplicate swatch, delete a swatch, add colors, replace colors. Sometimes these are really helpful, I call them flyout menus. Okay, let's talk about the timeline. That's really important. I want you to go and open File, Open. If we were going to open one of the ones we've used, we'd open something in here, Open Recent. A lot of the programs, by the way, have this Open Recent. But we're going to open something that's in here, FL0103. So go ahead and open that. And we have these gears. And we have the timeline. So I want to get into this because this is really important. The way you draw in Flash and the way you animate in Flash. The way you draw there are things that are very different from Illustrator, and the way you animate, there are things that are very different than the way you can animate in Photoshop and After Effects. Now I'm going to read directly from your book because they describe it better than I can. It's on page 392. Just look at the diagram of, it's not this particular animation. It's of an animation we're going to get to later with the turtles, which you've seen but came in the wrong sequence in our lesson. It calls the timeline the heart of the action. And it talks about how you can create sequences, slideshows, movies at specific points or on keyframes. You can place action script on individual keyframes to control playback and add interactivity, or place sounds along the timeline to add sound effects, music, and dialogue. If you get into something like After Effects or some of the animation and making a movie in Photoshop, then you will see there are some significant differences. When you understand the concept of keyframe, though, it does help, and action over time. Now here's where Flash sort of mimics, and it actually talks about it on 393, Illustrator, Photoshop, or InDesign, because here's a situation, again, where you might want to use your flyout menu down here in the lower, in the upper right-hand corner of the timeline, near the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and preview. So now I want to pull this up so we can see how those two tiny arrows, so we can really see what we're doing. Before we go any further, one thing I want to remind you is anything in those gray boxes that aren't like on the white pages, you should read on your own. I'm not going to necessarily reference those a lot. I'm going to reference what's in each lesson that's in lesson 1, or each exercise would be a better way to put it, that's in lesson 1. While we're in this preview mode, in case you forgot we could have small, which wouldn't work for me at all, normal, medium, large, and preview. There's a few others. I kind of like this preview mode, but you're really not going to be able to get away with it when you have a lot of layers. The 3 gear layers are separate animations, and when you have a long blue thing like this, it indicates tweening. As I was saying, this indicates motion tween. This is the playhead. If you want to see this thing playing, hit return or enter, depending on what system you're on. Return if you're on a Mac, enter if you're on a PC. This is the playhead. Now if we go back here and make it normal, that's what it looks like. And this is a tween is where Flash does the work for you. If you want to shuttle in the timeline just to see what's going on here, now you notice the type, there's lots of keyframes because the type, each letter is coming on, and the dot, 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 letter, 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 and you can do the return with that too. It'll work. So I did a little trick, not really a trick, but because it takes so many keyframes, it's not a tween thing on the type, it's a keyframe thing. If I play it, there's going to be a hit because I deleted a keyframe. You can even see where I deleted it right there. So I'm going to hit return. See how it, boom, it blurped. I mean, I can do undo, undo, undo. There we go. And now if I go and hit return, it's just going to go to the end. I don't have it on loop. Now it's fine. So there you have it. That is Flash animation. The thing is, each keyframe can hold a lot of stuff. That's not the same as After Effects. That's a different thing. Okay, we'll get there. Okay, I want you to close this. You don't have to save it. So I'm going to do a Command W or go File Close. And it's asking me, do I want to save it? It is what it is. I don't need to save it. It came this way. We didn't really do anything special to it. Oh, I was hitting the D, and it doesn't. In Photoshop, you can just hit the D key, but I guess in Flash, you have to go up there and hit the don't save. Next, we're going to do an exercise, which we did start in class, and a lot of people disappeared. There are a couple things in the book that don't make a lot of sense, but we are going to open an illustration, we're going to do some drawing, and then we're going to do an animation where we're going to use tweening. So the illustration we're going to open right now is FLO102 underscore fish.FLA. So file, open, and it doesn't say fish, but we'll probably name it that. This is the one, 102.FLA. And there is our fish. So we are going to, I don't know why they call it in the book underscore fish, because they really want you to save as, what do you think? Underscore work. There you have it. Underscore work. And save it. So now we have this started. And we started it in class and didn't finish it. And so I'm going to finish it here because I want to forewarn you that this is your first homework assignment. And I'm going to give you another assignment that is not in the book, but you will want to familiarize yourself with lessons 2 and 3. I don't want to focus on the drawing tools, but you might want to know them better than you'll know them after this exercise. So here's where we left off, I believe, when, well, maybe we were a little further along when some of you didn't come back from break. Not a good idea. And we're going to use this very versatile selection tool, the black arrow. And we're going to click on the fin and drag it down until we see the registration circle. See that? And let go. And now the fin is in place. Very easy way to make a copy in Flash. I'm going to click on, we need another fin. let me not forget, and hold the Option key and drag. And there's another fin. While we're on this fin, we're going to go to Edit. We're going to go to Transform. Oops. Transform. Flip vertical. Okay, it's asking me, do you want to save it? And I'm going to say yes. And in the horizontal and vertical fields, I'm going to lock it and make it 60. So I'm going to make it smaller. There we go. And I'm going to move it. See my little circle? Boom. I have a little fin down there. I don't know, man. That seems, that's where the marker is. That's, oop, I'm just moved the body of the fish. Now we've made a copy and I'm in my black selection tool. I'm going to move it over here. Well, there it is, but it's a little on the big side. So we want to go to the transform window. This is the icon here. It says transform. You can also go to window, transform. See where it says 100% and it's linked? Type in 60%. So now we've got a tinier fin. Now we're going to add the eye. So we're going to get the oval, which it looks like we have. And our properties inspector, we want to do an inner radius of 50. We haven't drawn it yet, mind you. Okay, we want the eye to look like it does in the book. So you have to make sure we've got the oval tool. Whoops, right there. Oval tool. We want to make the we're clicking the oval tool. We're going to make the fill black. And we're going to click a circle of black. Now, I mentioned earlier, hope I didn't edit it out, we want to make sure we have an inner radius of 50. That's why there's nothing there. We just have a black eye, so to speak. Remember, I'm going to go over this again because I know when I was doing it originally, I thought, gee whiz, where is all this stuff, right? Or wrong. Here's the oval. We've got the properties, which change depending on what tool you're in. See? Oval. Inner radius 50. Before my fill had been yellow or green or something. So I'm changing that to black. And I really don't think I need a stroke. And I'm going to go over here. And it does say, I think, to the left side. I was doing it to the right side. I'm going to hold the shift key. I don't want it to be too big. And there is the eye. I'm going to go back to my black arrow by hitting the V key. And there it is. There's the black arrow. And I'm going to move this over here. Oh dear. That's what we couldn't figure out in class. So I am going to move this. Oops. So the things I have to make sure I do is I have the oval, I have inner radius at 50, I have the fill at black, and I have to make sure I go to layer 1. And now I'm going to draw this. I'm going to hold the shift key so it's a perfect circle. I'm going to hit the V key so I get my black arrow. Oops. Select the whole thing and move it here. And there you have it. And there's the eye. Make sure you put the eye on its own layer. There's a keyframe. There's automatically a keyframe there at the beginning of each layer. And now we have the eye. The eye that has an inner negative space. Make sure you save. Command S, Control S on the PC, or you can go File Save. So there is the first graphic. We're not done yet, though. The interesting thing, here's the confusing thing about the book, which actually I find quite annoying, is if you look on page 399, it doesn't have the black circle, really. I guess it's showing you drawing it, and then on the next page it shows you that it's black, but you've got to read every word carefully to make sure how they got it that way and how they got it in the front. Because during class there were some issues about what went to what. Well, they put it on layer 1, which is above layer 2. Now we're going to add a gradient to the fish to give it some depth. So we're going to take my favorite tool, the black arrow, and just click on the body of the fish. So that's selected, okay? And we're going to go to swatches. We're going to select this last. You're going to selected the body of the fish. You're going to go to the swatches. Now, if you get the paint bucket, it thinks you want to drop a new swatch in there. So you have to move to the point where you get, come on, man. Ah, there it is. God, this is so annoying. Let's see if we can make these bigger. Can we make them bigger? Ah. All right, forget it. We really need to, see, I keep dropping, look at that. I keep dropping black in there. If I hold there we go. Okay, so what you need to do is go up in here to get that eyedropper and then come down. All right, so we're going to select the body of the fish with our black arrow because we're going to add a gradient. We're going to go to swatches. Maybe the best way to go to swatches would be here. And see that little eyedropper that came up? So much easier to see when they're bigger. And look, I clicked and it filled that with the gradient. You can do it from here, but getting that little gradient I was having trouble with. So it's fine, it's the same thing. But I added a bunch of black swatches in the meantime. Let's see. I could, let's see, clear colors, replace colors, load default colors. Oh, it doesn't have the gradient. Interesting. Huh. I wonder if I could go here. There it is. I added the gradient back in. Cool. So the gradient's there now because we need the gradient for the fins. Only maybe we don't. Because you can take the eyedropper tool, boom, 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 down here, suck up the gradient, and go to the fins. And there you have it. Consequently, we saw how we could use the eyedropper tool, and I believe it works this way in Illustrator, to sample the color from one area. Let's try it again. Sample the color, and then go and put it in the fins. Now, there is also living with the bucket the ink bottle. So I want to change the stroke I'm going to change the stroke in the Property Inspector. Property Inspector, here's the stroke. Now that we have no stroke, but we do have a stroke here. Okay, we're going to go up here to Edit, Deselect All. So nothing's selected. In the Property Inspector, we're going to change the stroke color. Here's our Property Inspector. We have to select it. Let's go to our arrow. Change it. Oh, got that open. Go to our arrow. Let's just, and here, let's go here. This is much better. Stroke, we're going to get a nice bright orange. And here's our stroke. It's just that one that got selected. We're going to do all the strokes. There's our stroke, the orange, and then in the Property Inspector, so we're going to choose Edit, Deselect All, just so we're sure everything's, did I do Select All? Deselect All. There we go. And living with the paint bucket is the ink bottle. We want the ink bottle. The ink bottle allows you to change the stroke. So here's the fill color. So we're going to change it to some kind of bright orange. We're also going to change it from a solid style to a ragged style. I'm going to undo what I did while it wasn't recording and just show you that with the ink bottle, we've made it ragged, and we're going to add the stroke, the orange stroke to these fins and the fish. Yes, where's my eyedropper? There we go. Oh, more editing. Bummer. Okay, and then drop it in there. And there you have it. Very cool. Now it looks like you can see the background through it. Now the next thing we're going to do, by the way, the book doesn't make that clear, how to make that eye. It does not make it clear. I don't believe. It really needs to go on a different layer. And that way you don't have to worry about sending to the back and sending to the front and all that stuff. Now we're going to make the bubbles. So, all right, we're going to make some bubbles. So we have to make some more circles, like our eyeball. And what our book is saying is click the oval and then get the oval primitive. Make the inner radius 50. And the fill, they want a certain color, so let's give it the numbers that they give us. 66699 FF. So there's the stroke color. And while holding the shift key, draw several ovals. It seems like to me, okay, give it a shot. Okay, stop. What we're going to do is, we're not going to have a stroke, we're going to have a fill. So I'm going to go to stroke, no stroke, fill, and give it that blue, 6699 FF. Hallelujah. Inner radius 50, oval primitive, and hold the shift key so we get a nice, there we go. There we go. And there we go. So we've got all these nice little bubbles going on here. Now make sure you save. We could have done oval primitive, as we might want to change the inner radius. And if it was just an oval, like our eye, we can't change the inner radius. It's a shape, and we can't change that inner radius. So that's what that oval primitive was all about. And it would have been nice if our book said it, but it didn't. Okay. So we've got some basic knowledge of drawing tools. I'm going to save this, And we're going to move on to some animation. FL0101, open. There we go. And the little turtles here, oops, there that thing is. See, this indicates that there's a tween, that we can tween it, because there's a keyframe at the beginning, at the end. The turtle only is on, the little tiny turtle's only on one keyframe. What we're going to do with Mr. Big Turtle there, we're going to move our timeline indicator to here, to the end. Then we're going to move, oh, I'm sorry, right click, create motion tween. A Mac does right click these days. It didn't at one time. I'm going to hold the shift key so Mr. Turtle's going in one line. See that? It shows you the keyframes. And then I'm going to hit the return key, and there's our turtle going across the screen. So that's what tweening is. Flash is calculating the frames to the end. So we can insert a keyframe, insert frame, and now go up here, create motion tween. Okay, select item cannot be tweened. You must convert the symbol to tweened. You want to convert, okay. And then notice it's got this little icon here. And now I'm going to just move, I'm on the last frame, and I'm going to move the turtle halfway out of the picture and hit return. And now both of our turtles are jamming across the screen. So remember, if you want to start playing around with this, lesson 3 looks like it has a lot more on Flash animation. So that's it for this lesson.